you for coming to our press con for the launch of 2015 Listahanan Database of Poor Families in the Philippines. May I introduce the members of our panel of speakers, led by DSWD Secretary Corazon Juliana Suliman, DSWD Undersecretary Florita Villar, Dr. Mara Warwick, Country Director, World Bank, Dr. Dennis Mapa, Dean School of Economics, UP Diliman, and Ms. Lota Silwander, Country Representative of UNICEF. With that, may I now invite Sec Suliman for her opening message.
Magandang umaga sa ating lahat. Kami po ay nagpapasalamat na dito kayo dahil tayo ay nagpresenta ng Listahanan 2. Ito po ang batayan ng iba't ibang publikong serbisyo para sa mga mahihirap. Sino, saan sila, anong klaseng pamumuhay at pamilya meron sila. Yan ang batayan para makabenepisyo sila sa Pantawid Pamilyang Pilipino Program, makabenepisyo sila sa PhilHealth, makabenepisyo sila sa services din ng Department of Agriculture, at meron tayong mga kasamahan dito mula sa World Bank at saka sa UNICEF at iba pang mga international organizations na ginagamit din itong batayan para gumawa ng mga programa para tulungan ang ating mga mahihirap na pamilya. Ito rin ang batayan para makita kung saan pumupunta ang pera para sa social protection at ano ang nangyayari sa buhay ng mga tinutulungan. So si Dr. Dennis Mapa ang aming kasama at pinaka-head ng team na nag-develop ng formula ng Proximins test. Pinaliwanag niya yung kanina. At ito ngayon ang lahat ng bilang ng mga mahihirap na pamilya sa ngayon, out of 15 million households, 13 million plus are not poor and 5 million are poor. Pero out of that database also, tinignan namin ang kalagayan ng 4.2 million registered Pantawid based on the 2014 database December, and out of the 4.2 million, 1.5 million families ay umasenso or nag-improve ang well-being. So yan po ang resulta ng pagtatrabaho ng 5 taon, yung improvement ng well-being nila. But at the same time, meron pang malaking hamon na kailangang ituloy ang pagtulong sa mga mahihirap na pamilya pa rin para na sa ganon, tuloy-tuloy ang pag-ahon nila sa kahirapan.
Okay, let's proceed to the question and answer. First question from Mr. George of ABS-CBN.
For Secretary Suliman, as expounded by Dr. Warwick earlier, the Listahanan removes patronage from politics. But in the past few weeks, the 4Ps has been the subject of too many political speeches from presidential candidates. How would you explain the timing of the release of this Listahanan and the purpose in relation to the campaign being conducted by the presidential candidates?
The timing of the release has to do with the timing of the release of the Philippine Statistics Authority. The Philippine Statistics Authority announced the result of the FIES results in March 18. And we actually coordinated that they first released the Philippine Statistics results of FIES, so poverty incidence and poverty thresholds are defined. And then we had to walk through Holy Week. So this is the first time that we can actually get together and present the result, because as Dr. Dennis Mapa had said, we are mindful of the result of the Philippine Statistics Authority, and we did use their thresholds. So we needed that result first and had to double check to ensure that the data that we have speaks to the data of the Philippine Statistics Authority. To the question of how does this relate to the campaign, as you indicated in your question, after Social Weather Station came out with a result of a survey they did in the first week of February, where it said 4 out of 5 voters will vote for a candidate who will continue Pantawid Pamilyang Pilipino program. Everyone, including those who were critical of the program in the past, said they will continue Pantawid Pamilyang Pilipino program. In other words, those who have been very critical of what Pantawid Pamilya was all about are all now saying they will continue it and are promising over the top of what has been said. I think this is the election season, and anything that will get the votes, the candidates are promising. What I'm saying to everyone who are going to be voting in May 9, be mindful, analytical, and critically look at what all these people are promising and what they have done in the past. It is a very big disservice to the people who have benefited from Pantawid, the parents and the parent leaders, to be told now that we promise you more when the truth of change they are already holding. In Tagalog, pinapangako ang katotohanan na hawak na ng mga mamamayan, na ang kanilang mga anak ay pumapasok na ang kanilang mga anak ay malusog na, at may nag-graduate na ng high school, at may nag-graduate na ng kolehiyo. At yung mga dinadagdag na pangako, ay palagay ko, hindi nauunawaan ano yung tunay na layunin ng programa. Ang tunay na layunin ng programa ay panatilihin ang mga bata sa eskwelahan, panatilihin malusog, at yan ay makita na responsibilidad ng magulang at ang pamahalaan tumutulong para ang magulang makatayo sa kanilang responsibilidad. Kaya kung ipapangako mo na walang kondisyon, ikaw ay almost nang iinsulto doon sa mga magulang. Kasi gusto mo parang nanlilimos nga sila. Ito, ang Pantawid Pamilya, sinasabi na namin noong pa, hindi dole out. Kasi may katumbas na katungkulan ang mga magulang at pinagmamalaki nila yon. Pinagmamalaki nila yon na sila ay kumikilos para magbago. O yung pangako na isasama ang mga senior citizens. Ang senior citizens natin po ngayon, nagbebenepisyo sa Expanded Senior Citizens Act, which is 500 pesos per month na binibigay every start of the quarter. Mahigit 1 milyon na po ang nagbibenepisyo doon. Ibig sabihin ko, yung pong pagpangako tungkol sa Pantawid ay sa aking tingin, kinakailangang suriin mabuti kung ano yung sinasabi at kung ano ang nangyayari na talaga. Kasi mahalaga na ang mga nangangako tutungtong sa nakikitang pagbabago na ng mga nagbebenepisyo ng Pantawid.
Thank you, Sec. Yes, Sir George,
Can I just
follow up?
have a follow-up? I'm sorry, I have to ask this in Filipino language. Tungkol po dun sa criticisms na hindi inclusive ang pro-pura agenda ng kasalukuyang administrasyon, ito po ba isa sa mga paraan ng pagpapaliwanag ninyo na inclusive ang pro-pura agenda?
Una, hindi ko po nauunawaan kung ano po yung ibig sabihin nila na hindi inclusive ang pro-poor agenda ng pamahalaang Aquino. Ang pamahalaang Aquino po, gaya ng narinig nyo kanina, sinasabi na kahit yung Pantawid Pamilya, inaabot ang mga lumad, ang mga katutubo, at inaabot ang mga walang bahay na nakatira sa kalsada. At pangalawa, atin din pong binigyan ng kahalagahan ang mga may kapansanan, hindi lamang sa mismong programa para sa kanila, pero meron nga hong batas na pinirmahan para madagdagan pa ang benepisyo ng may kapansanan. At ito hong recent na pinirmahan ni Pangulong Aquino na on PWD VAT, removal of the VAT, sa ating mga persons with disability. At para ho sa mga lolo at lola na mahihirap nga, tuloy-tuloy ho at ating pinalawak pa for 2016 hanggang 60 years old na po ang ating mga tutulungan na mga mahihirap na mga lolo at lola. So, baka kailangang ipakita, madaling magsabi ng hindi inclusive, maganda sigurong detalyehin. Sino yung naiwanan? Sino yung hindi nasama? Para nang sa ganon, mapuntahan yung hindi nasama at maisama po namin.
Thank you, Sec.
Okay. Ms. Eden of Net25.
Secretary, yun po bang 1.5 million families na non-poor na ngayon ang kanilang status, ay sila lang po ba yung umasenso since the day one po nung implementation ng Forbes program?
Hindi po. Sisimulan kong isagutin, pero baka pwedeng dagdagan ni Dr. Dennis Mapa. Yung 1.5 million na umangat o umasenso ay batay lang sa 4.2 million na database ng Pantawid. So, yung na-cover ng listahan ng 2 ngayon ay mas malawak sa 4.2. And palagay ko, Dr. Dennis Mapa can explain that better.
Ang aming ginawa doon sa Pantawid ay we look at what happened to them after 5 years, and then we check na lahat ay umangat ang kanilang well-being. No? Ibig sabihin, doon sa aming Proximins test, tumaas yung kanilang per capita income. Pero kaso nga lang, di ba mayroon tayong poverty threshold. So para ma-consider ka talaga as nag-cross from being poor to non-poor in the PMT model, ay you have to cross the poverty threshold. So may mga households naman na umangat yung kanilang per capita income. Pero dun sa aming assessment ay hindi na na-cross yung poverty threshold.
At siguro dagdag doon, yung out of 50 million, ang non-poor doon ay 13 million. 10 million. And ang poor ay 5. So, mas malaki yung hindi mahirap dun sa 15 million na na-survey. Ibig sabihin, hindi lang po ang Pantawid ang nakatulong, may iba pang programa ang pamahalaan na isagawa para ang 10 milyon na hindi mahirap ay matulungan at hindi bumagsak sa kahirapan.
Ms. Eden of PTV4.
Okay. Members saying that itong listahan na natin is also a tool for transparency. So does it mean that aside from making it available to our LGUs, this will also be available to the public via website probably?
It will be available to organizations who want to use it for poverty reduction. In other words, it's not going to be available in the website in relation to the database of the names and the places. What will be in the website are the numbers that you've seen now. The numbers of poor, non-poor. If you looked at our standees earlier, the business intelligence that Dr. Dennis Mapa was saying, the number of poor children, the number of young people who are at risk, the number of women who are at risk, the number of persons with disability. So that will be in the website. But in terms of the detail, like the specific names and description and addresses, that is not going to be available in the website. However, if there are organizations, national government agencies, local government units, civil society organizations who would want to use the data for their poverty reduction work, that will be made available with a memorandum of agreement that we will sign with them to ensure that A, they are legitimate organizations, and B, that they will be using it for poverty reduction and not for anything else. Because that database is very rich. It can be used for marketing, it can be used for political reasons, because this is a database of names of people and addresses. So we want to also make sure that the rights of the families, the numbers of the people who are in the database are protected.
Thank you. Yes, Ms. Marisol of GMA7.
I'll follow up her question a while ago. Kasi there are organizations, may mga ilan mga would like to give their donations directly to the beneficiary. So you're saying, ma'am, itong listahanan po, Secretary, is the organizers or whatever organization who would like to help those, yung poor, I will not have a direct access to them. So dadaan at dadaan pa rin po talaga sa DSWD.
Will not have direct access to the names if they want to know who they are. If before they have access to the names and the places, we need to have a memorandum of agreement. But if there are organizations who want to help people and go directly to them, there are no problems there. I mean, they can directly deal with the barangays, the barangay people. Tuloy-tuloy ho yun. Pwede silang makipag-ugnayan at sila'y makikipag-ugnayan kung sino man ang handang makipagtrabaho sa kanila. Yung hindi available in the website are the names and the addresses of the people who have been identified as poor. Bago namin yun ibigay sa kahit na anong organisasyon, kailangan po namin magkaroon ng Memorandum of Agreement na maglalagay doon kung anong balak nilang gawin doon sa data. Para nang sa ganun nga, maprotektahan yung mga pamilya na nasa loob po ng database.
Unless, ma'am, dumiretso na po yung mga organizations doon mismo sa LGU para to locate those poor.
Yes. So yung mga gustong tumulong at gusto nilang dumiretso sa mga mamamayan, pwede silang dumaan sa LGU, pwede rin silang dumiretso sa mamamayan. Walang nagsasabing hindi pwede yun.
Nung unang i-launch ito, meron ho bang panibago or additional, ano bang tawag doon, criteria para maging masama po doon sa database ng listahan?
Bagong characteristics ng mga poor households na nasama dito. So ang isang importanteng set of indicators ay yung barangay characteristics, kung nasaan nakatira yung household. Kasi dati ang naisama lang ay yung characteristic lang ng household, gaano sila karami, ano yung education attainment, yung employment opportunities, pero wala yung kung saan sila nakatira. May mga pag-aaral na where you are located actually is a strong determinant para malaman kung poor ka or non-poor. Let's say, doon ka nakatira sa isang area na walang access to water, walang access to electricity, walang road network. So yun yung mga katangian na malamang magiging mas marami ang poor households doon. So yun yung aming dinagdag sa listahanan 2 para mas strengthen yung targeting process.
Good Secretary, how has the natural calamities, most recent of which is Yolanda, affected listahanan? Because we've heard of people migrating to other regions. If indeed they migrated to other regions, were they ever included in the listahanan too? And how far have you gone to insulate listahanan from petty politics?
The first part of your question, we saturated all rural areas. So whether they are new residents in the area or they are old residents in the area. Based on our own observation, you will see in the regional launches, the poverty levels in the Yolanda, the number of poor families rather, the number of poor families in the Yolanda affected area are obviously more than compared to the other regions because except in the Bicol area, which in Albay, which did not indicate an increase of poor families. So when we do the regional launches, or even in our website now, you will see the regions and the provinces and the number of poor in these areas. Now, how do we ensure that it's not affected by petty politics? The enumerators were hired, and the hiring was done that the enumerators do not come from the area where they enumerated. That was one step that we took. And second, as I explained earlier, there are 3 levels of check. So first, the enumerator brings in to the area supervisor. The area supervisor does a spot check of 5 households. In other words, what she receives, she checks in the area 5 households to see if there is veracity to the information or it was done on a table. Kasi lalabas yun. Kung pumunta siya doon sa isang bahay and it comes out na yung sinasabi nung data na hawak niya at yung sinasabi nung tao ay hindi pareho, most likely the enumerator did not interview this household. Ganun yung sistema. Then on the third, after that's encoded, there is another check that's being done by the third level supervisor, by the area coordinator. So it means that we really checked it 2 times before we put it in the database, before it's subjected to a proxy means test. Now the hiring was also done by the regional office, not by the local government unit, province, or municipality. In fact, we got into some tension dynamics with some LGUs and some congresspersons who wanted some people to be doing the enumeration, and we said no. We go through this process of recruitment that we have, and we made sure that those who were enumerating in Municipality A did not come from Municipality A.
Yeah, thank you very much. For Ms. Warwick and Ms. Silvander, how different is the approach of Listahanan from the other projects that you may have witnessed or financed?
Listahanan is really one of the unique programs in the world. There are only 2 countries, Brazil and the Philippines, that have such a comprehensive database for social programs and for social targeting. So it really is Philippines really is a global leader in this particular work, and we see that this database has also developed, as we heard today. The methodology has developed, the data has also been expanded over time to become richer and to be more useful and more accurate for the government to be able to target its programs. So we really see this as one of the flagship programs of its type in the world, and the World Bank is certainly very proud to be supporting the Philippines in developing this program.
So will you be supporting the Philippines with more funds?
Yes, we will. We've certainly hoped to continue our support for this program. We have supported it since its inception in 2008, already 8 years ago, and this has been a consistent support as part of the World Bank's partnership with the Philippines. So we certainly hope that we will continue to be able to support this in the future.
Thank you very much. Yes,
In other
ma'am.
countries where we work with similar, for example, cash transfer program or social support programs, what has to be done before you can actually target the right beneficiaries is a very cumbersome consultation process, where you go down to the community level, you involve the community leaders and the community inhabitants, and you go through identification process of actually identifying the households or the persons that you want to target. And I know for a fact that there is a big exclusion and a big inclusion mistake in those processes, because local politics gets involved. Because in every community there are people who are outside the community somehow. There are those who are more powerful in the community and more talkative or whatever it is. And so the errors are much, much bigger in using those kinds of methodologies. Although, you know, we do support the community consultation process in many other ways. But as a methodology for a continuous support program, like a conditional cash transfer program, for example, it has a lot of downsides and difficulties. So Listahanan provides a much more solid and objective way of actually providing support to those who actually deserve it, the poorest and the most vulnerable.
Thank you very much.
Camille of CNN.
Ma'am, I understand this is the second time you have made this kind of assessment. Did you increase the number of households that you have assessed? Because your active 4-piece beneficiaries is 4.2 million, and the number of households that you have identified is more than 5 million.
We increased the number of families that we enumerated. we enumerated in the first 209 survey 10 million. And now we covered 15.1 million families. The reason for that is that we wanted to ensure that we cover all of the houses in the rural area, all of the families in the rural area, because we wanted to precisely minimize the exclusion error. And maybe Dr. Dennis Mapa can explain that more. So it has nothing to do with the number of Pantawid Pamilya beneficiaries. We wanted to make sure that we do not leave anyone behind.
Another factor is, of course, increase in population. The population from 2009 is smaller. So we have a bigger population, we want to cover more. And one particular area which is discussed by the Secretary is that in the rural areas where poverty is a bit high, we want to capture in the database as much as possible all households. So here the strategy is, if it is a rural area, we do a complete census so that we can capture everything, everybody there. And using the model, we can identify if they're really poor households. There is a high probability that they will be identified as poor households. So that's basically the major reasons for that bigger number of households. One is increase in population and coverage in terms of the area.
When we conducted the first round of assessment, we covered more than 10 million. And after the result was issued or launched, we have received a lot of requests from local government units asking that why is this area not covered, or are you sure that this barangay was saturated? And for us to conduct separate individual assessments is more expensive. So when we were planning for the second round, ideally it's a nationwide. So we are 20 million families or households. We should cover 20 million, but we know that that will be expensive and that is not really needed because we know for a fact that not all Filipinos are poor. So when we were planning, as the Secretary mentioned, we tried to saturate the rural because we're hoping that by doing this, we won't go into separate and individual assessments again as requested by the local government unit, which means saving also funds from the Philippine government.
PIA.
Because they are delisted from the Pantawid Pamilya for reason that they already have improved well-being. They do not comply with the inclusion error, as we would call them. In the first place, they should not have been in Pantawid. So all of those names are still in the Listahanan 1 database. Because the database of Pantawid drawn from Listahanan 1. So that's the 4.4 that we have now. It does not mean that we take away the names in Listahanan. They remain there. We know where they are so that when we do a check, as we have done so now, we can go back to them and see that they have in fact improved or have gone back to being poor. So that's the reason we don't take them away. Now, I think it's important to also explain that when the enumeration is done, we do what we call a validation process. So the validation process means we post the names of the people from the barangay who are considered poor and non-poor. And an assembly is called and discussed. And that's the time when they can tell us, why is Dennis Mapa in the poor? He is not poor. Or why is Lota not in the poor list? She is poor. It's a community discussion, the validation process. So that's part of transparency. That means, ang ibig sabihin nun, alam nila kung sino ang tutulungan ng pamahalaan dahil sila ay lumabas na nangangailangan ng tulong at alam nila yung hindi tutulungan na sapagkat meron na silang sariling kakayanan. Or alam nila ngayon, meron kaming bagong kategorya, alam nila na ang tulong na matatanggap nila ay tutok sa hanap buhay. Kasi oo, umangat na sila, pero gusto nating palakasin ang kakayahan nilang manatili sa asenso at hindi sila bumagsak muli sa kahirapan. Kaya't sila, yung 1.5 million na aming ni-report, nakatutok doon ang pagtulong sa hanap buhay na palagian. No? So that's what we call sustainable jobs. And ito ay hindi lamang sa DSWD, ito ay kasama ang iba't ibang ahensya ng pamahalaan.
Sorry. I'm sorry, Secretary. I just remembered how much and at what cost yung funding for this project. This and that.
It's 1.9 billion pesos.
We were given a budget of 1.9 billion by Congress to cover the 15.3 million households for enumeration and up to the result, including validation. But on a per capita, I think we're spending more than 120 pesos per household. Because
4 years. If we use the database,
yeah. But for us to be able to do this, it will only cost us more than 120 pesos because of the salaries of those enumerators, the area supervisors, the area coordinators, and some investment on the infrastructure, the tablets that we use and the forms that we use.
How similar or different to the first listahan?
Basically, we maintained more or less the same per capita, but we had an increase because we covered for the second round 15.3, while for the first round 10 million.
And also, we added the supervisors, the area coordinator and the area supervisors. They were there, but because of the number of households, we had to cover more personnel.
Because of the tablet. Because we shifted. The first round of assessment, paper and pen lang tayo. Pero sa second round natin, as advised by some, we had to use yung tablet for urban areas so that we get results faster.
Marisol?
Sir, so that we can imagine and picture, no, like itong nasa 1.5 ngayon na hindi na sila non-poor, like when they were 5 years ago, ngayon, how will you compare now their status of living?
Well, based on our Proximin test model, tumaas na yung kanilang per capita income. Pero yun nga lang, kung titingnan natin ay maraming mas malapit doon sa poverty threshold. Kasi kung titingnan mo yung ating poverty threshold ay medyo mataas din eh. So pwede na you are let's say 40% lower than the poverty threshold. So kahit na may tulong, umangat ka pero hindi ka pa nakaabot doon. Or kung lumagpas ka na ay hindi pa talaga ganun kalayo. So a shock, for example, let's say nawalan ka ng trabaho yung head of the family, pwedeng bumalik ka ulit doon sa poverty. So umangat sila, yung iba, umangat talaga, pero hindi ganun ka taas yung pag-angat na nag-move outside the poverty line.
Meaning, sir, ang income nila ay nasa 120 plus pataas, no?
No, kasi ang per capita, for example, sa National Capital Region, yung per capita poverty threshold 6 months as reported by PSA, yun yung ginagamit kasi namin. 12,000 pesos na yon for a family of 5, no? So per person, 12,000. In 6 months lang yun, nasa website yun ng PSA. So pwede na tumaas yung kanyang income pero hindi enough para ma-hit yung 12,000.
Siguro, para ma-picture nyo, kunyari, noong 2008, yung tinutulungan naming isang pamilya na identify na non-poor, ang kanyang bahay ay gawa sa pawid, ang kanyang sahig ay lupa, at wala siyang gas, kahoy ang kanyang ginagamit. Ngayon, nung binalikan sila, meron na siyang flooring, meron na siyang na semento, meron na siyang seal, yung galvanized iron, at meron na siyang bigas. So, yun ang mga sinasabi ni Dennis na nag-improve at yun ang magbigiging indicator mo na umasenso ka na. Pero nakatira ka pa rin dun sa dati mong tinitirhan na komunidad at maaring yung asawa mo ay may panakanakang trabaho at ikaw ay natulungan sa isang maliit na negosyo ng sustainable livelihood. So, i-picture nyo yon, ganun yung improvement. Pero malaking bagay yon. At ang isa pa, hindi kasigurado makakapasok yung anak mo. Ngayon, nakakapasok yung anak mo, may pag-unlad yung tinitirhan mo, at meron ka ng inaasahan na pera kada 2 buwan na nagagamit mo na i-budget doon sa pumapasok ng pera at doon sa papasok ng pera pa. Ganon kadetalye ang tinitingnan nung listahanan. Kasi yun ang sinasabi namin kanina na proxy indicator ng kahirapan. Para nang sa ganon, nakikita natin yung tinatawag nga na multidimensional poverty. Hindi lang tinitingnan ang kita, kung hindi tinitingnan ang iba pang aspeto ng buhay na siyang nagsasabi rin na mahirap ang isang pamilya.
Thank you, Secretary. Okay, with that, we're ending our press.